Hi everyone, Sandy here. Welcome back to part 3 of my journey into junk journaling series that we're going to be doing, making a junk journal. We already have our junk journal cover and pages assembled, and we're ready to do something with the cover today. I have some things here I want to go over with you real quick, and then we'll get started on this. First of all, I have the beautiful Love Letters paper collection, the 12 by 12 from Country Craft Creations. This is what I'm going to mainly use in on this particular junk journal. As you see, all the pretty vintage pinks and roses and the lacy looking papers here that we have. And what I've done is I've gone through this. Now this is exclusive to Country Craft Creations, only available at their online shop. Love Letters in the 12 by 12. You get lots of papers, you get plenty to work with. So we probably do other projects with that besides the junk journal, but for now that's what we've got to work with. But I went through and picked out the 2 papers that I think I want for my cover, and I'll show you that in just a second here. Also, I wanted a fabric back. Now we've got this seam binding ribbon here on the back, but that is not going to be visible. We're going to cover this whole thing. So I did go to Hobby Lobby, and I wanted something that looked like quilts, but I don't want to cut up any of my vintage quilts or anything. And I saw this fabric, so I bought a 1/4 yard of quilt looking fabric, and then I've torn off a piece that will fit my cover spine area. So I did that, and then I took my sewing machine and some black thread and different zigzag stitches, blanket stitch. I just stitched along the different squares of this, and I think that's going to look really cool. Now I may also stitch some along the edge here where I added on. Now I don't know how big a piece I want yet. I do know I want the roses, I think, showing. So, you know, we'll play with that when we get to that point of putting our spine cover on. And also have picked out this vintage handkerchief with the beautiful tatting on the side and some lace. I cut off an old dress, so I've got that. And let's see here. These are the 2 papers that I picked out to work with first. The Kissing Booth one, but I'm going to be working on this side. I don't know if I want to use one or both, one or the other. So if I take my cloth here, I thought that this looked really cool with that. And this one also looks good as well. So see that? So that's going to be a decision to make. So if you will have some kind of fabric, it doesn't have to be quilt looking, and some of my stitches are loose, and I'm okay with that. I may put some stain and stuff on this too as I'm going along to age it some. So other things that I have here, I have this older sheet of music that I may just go ahead and use it. I don't know. Then I have this one here, and I copied it on copy paper, part of it. And I'm going to show you how to age this if you don't want to use your original on your paper. So I've also got some wax paper from the kitchen to use, and I have my archival ink in the coffee color that I ordered from Country Craft Creations for some inking. So I have that. Now I may decide not to use this string. I may use this more brown jute looking string, so I'll decide on that. And then I'd like to have some pressed flowers, but it's the time of the year right now we don't have any flowers outside, and so I did pick these up at Hobby Lobby where they're already flattened. So if you have some flowers that you can flatten, well, that'd be great. So I won't necessarily use all of these, and I don't know if I'll use them on the cover, but I thought they were really pretty, so I laid them out here for you to see. So anyway, we are ready now to start on the cover of our junk journal. So I'm going to untie this so that we can start decorating and adding pattern paper. And I just go ahead and do that and then start work on the pages. Now the process of a junk journal, it can't be rushed. It's not something that you're just going to sit down and do in a day. We're going to do bits of it here and there. My focus is maybe to do once or twice a week on it as I work on other design team projects, you know, and throw these videos in there with you in between. So yeah, we're going to do that. Oh, I also have some parchment paper that I thought might be pretty on this. So I'm going to pause, get my thoughts together. Also, I have washi tape. I have some really pretty washi tape that I picked up and some pins. And I have safety pins and paper clips, but we're going to do that later. I'm going to try a technique of rusting and aging those because I want them to look old. I don't want anything shiny and new that much here in this particular junk journal. So thank you so much for joining in with me. Just relax, take your time, find the bits and pieces that you have to work with. I will try to type up a list of ideas of things that you might forge and gather for your junk journaling. I have it handwritten here. Things on this, of course, are like the tea dyed or coffee copy paper, which we've already done. And of course, your favorite pattern papers, which I'm using on this collection, the exclusive paper collection from Country Craft Creations called Love Letters. Also some Fabri-Tac glue for your fabric. Couldn't locate any locally, but I did get Fabri-Fix, so I think that's the same thing. And I tested it out and it worked fine. Of course, I'm going to use art glitter glue, laces, ribbons, vintage buttons. I have a whole bunch of vintage buttons and buttons on cards. Your button string or jute. Old keys, paper clips that are metal, music paper, old maps, handwritten letters and postcards, vintage photos, vintage fabric, corrugated cardboard, envelopes and old handwritten envelopes, tags, and tags that you can make. There's tags that come in the collection. Let me show you with love letters. Aren't those awesome? We've got tags and we can add things to them and ribbons. Tags are like little string tags. You might want stuff like that. Glassine bags. I have some of those here somewhere. This is glassine bags with some tags that are stitched on in there. Pieces of old quilts or clothing. So I didn't want to use an old quilt, so I made my own. Old stamps, postage stamps, pressed dried flowers, vintage book pages, regular flowers, silk and paper that you might have, that you might make, vellum paper, wax paper, and old receipts. My list is really long, a couple of pages in fact. Twine jute, I've already told you, printable letters and receipts that you can, copy. Old titles and deeds, the Tim Holtz metal binder clips, and also his clip pins. These are charm pins. These work really good, so you might want some of those. Embossing powder, if we're going to do some embossing, some acrylic and rubber stamps, ink pads and daubers. So like I have the Ranger Archival coffee ink from Country Craft Creations, and a couple of different sizes of daubers here, the ones with the handles, and then these regular kind here. So we have those. So that right there, so I could use it if I need it. Stencils, acrylic paint stains. You use the Tim Holtz stains or any other stains that you might pick up. Alcohol ink. Texture paste, vintage sewing pins and needles, rice paper. Another really good paper to have in your arsenal for, trying to see where I put it, junk journaling is those cheap little, hold on a second, I'll grab it, children's scribble or doodle pads, drawing pads paper. See, this is a really nice paper, kind of like almost like a newsprint paper, but you get a whole pad of that for a couple of bucks. Check your dollar store, you might even get it cheaper. So that's a great paper to have for a junk journal as well, because it just has that feel of paper. It's not like copy paper, so you could also use that. Dried wildflowers, so I have the faux flowers, vintage advertisements, and then I've mentioned earlier in one of my videos, coming this spring at Country Craft Creations, she's going to have ephemera kits, junk journaling kits, so you're going to check that out and watch for those coming to the store at Country Craft Creations. Also, when you go to thrift stores or antique malls, I have an antique mall here in my town I like to go to. I like to look for old photos and letters and books that you can tear the pages out of. Look for old clothes. Look for your own old clothes at in your closet, or go to garage sale and find old clothes where you can, like the fabric, or it's white, or that you can stain it up and you can tear or cut the buttons off and leave them attached to the fabric. You might want something like that. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money. Just be thrifty and check around for stuff like that. You can make copies, photocopies of family heirloom papers that you don't want to cut up or use in a book, like birth certificates, marriage license. You can copy part of that and use that in your books. And we'll have a separate video on how to age papers that you may copy, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that later today in this video. I need to go get some more. I need some peroxide, so you can use peroxide, salt, and white vinegar to try to rust these metal paper clips and safety pins. So I'm anxious to try that. And to age your papers that you make copies of, to make them look distressed and aged, you want to maybe have some instant coffee, hole punches, open paper clips that we can poke holes in it, pokey tool, parchment paper works really good also as a paper to add into your book because it's all crinkly and it can be stained. Tracing paper and distressed alcohol inks in addition to the archival inks, so you might want some of those. Vintage checks and ledgers, and date stamps where you can, stamp dates on things, or different kinds of stamps. Like I picked up these from Country Craft Creations. These are graphic 45. So I ordered these, or received these in my design team package from Country Craft Creations, the graphic 45 acrylic stamps. We have two different floral backgrounds. So I think those would be really pretty in a junk journal. So that you might want to look for something like that. Order from Country Craft Creations, see what's available in the store, or check your stash and see what you already have. So that was the different kinds of stamps. Look for vintage cards and Valentine's, etc. Like birthday cards and anniversary cards, charms, vintage jewelry, small little vintage doilies that you might pick up at a thrift shop, flat paper bags, vintage deeds, and any kind of documents like that. I was saying, like marriage licenses and car titles and things like that. Some metal T-pins, if you don't know what those are. They're the ones that are, this one's not opened yet for me to show you. They're straight and they have a T. They just look neat, and I'm going to try to rust some of those up. Your staple and staples, some ticket stubs, which you can find some of those on this paper collection, Love Letters from Country Craft Creations. String tags. I think I showed you those already. Those are great to have. You can ink them up. Vintage handkerchiefs, like I showed earlier, and linen paper. So those are just some of the ideas I have so far. If I get a chance, I'll type that up so you can print that up, and it'll be an ongoing thing maybe that I add to. So that will make it a lot of fun to have different things. Just start looking at things differently. I have some other ideas to show you, some things from boxes or your recyclables before you recycle, something that you might want to look for. I hope I remember to show you that later on. So let's go ahead and get started working on the book cover. So the first thing I think I want to do is I want to layer it up with papers, different kind of papers. So I have here one of my tea dyed papers, and I like here where it kind of, when it was wet, it kind of tattered a little bit here. So I'm just going to maybe pull a little bit on that, and I'm laying it on here, and I'm just going to, it doesn't matter if it comes all the way over, because remember I'm going to cover that with my fabric. So I'm just going to tear it the way you like it. Kind of get it kind of torn and raggedy on the edges some. This side I'm not going to worry about. So I just pour that for the sizes here. And I'm going to go ahead and take the cover off my archival ink. So I have this available. and pick me up some ink and just kind of dab at it. Not a real heavy rubbing, but just kind of like dab it. Try to darken up the edges, because I may have those sticking out a little bit. Because actually the paper on the center, you're not going to see that much. So this is going to kind of go right in here. I'm going to grab my art glitter glue, because that's my favorite paper glue. And I'm just going to go ahead and put glue, not all the way up to the edge, because I kind of want that to be able to kind of curl up. Put the glue here and just press it on the cover. Of course, we're going to cover the inside. I'm going to let this kind of stick off a little bit here at the top. Now, I've got it a little short here on the bottom. So I'm just going to take a little more paper. And tear that there and ink that up. Just dab at it. Just want the edges of it kind of torn a little bit, kind of wrinkly. You just want to make it look like it's been sitting around and getting old. So, yeah, I'm going to glue that right there on the bottom. Some more glue. So that's our first layer here on the cover. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. Okay, just like that. Okay, so that's some of the tea dyed paper. Kind of give it some dimension there. Then I was thinking of adding some parchment paper. It looks much different, but I'm going to tear some off. I'm going to wrinkle this up quite a bit. You just play with some different papers and things that you might have on hand. Maybe tear this some here to kind of give it a little bit of a more jaggedy edge on some of this. And like I said, nothing is planned here. I just want it to be in a little ways from kind of folding it down, and maybe fold it some and get a crease in there. Like that. Now I'm going to ink that. Now this is I have a piece of cardboard here to use. So I'm going to show you when you're inking. I'll just use this box here. So I'm going to lay my paper here so that I can just kind of ink and hold it up in the air. I mean, if you hold it like this, it's kind of hard to dance. It actually works better if I have a file folder or something that I can use. I had one here. I don't know where I put it, so I don't want to wait. I'm just daubing on that. Just getting some color, a little bit more on the corners, and it doesn't have to be uniform. Okay, so I have these glued on. They kind of stick out on the edges. It's the way I want, a little tattered, a little ink on them. If you notice here, there's a gap. And that's okay, because that's going to be covered up anyway. You're not going to see that. It's these edges, and I know there's not anything here, but that's fine. Now, while I had my camera on pause, I was playing with some Scotch tape to make some old-looking tape. I had my camera on pause because when my heat comes on, it's really noisy, and it's very cold here today in Texas. So the heat's going to come off and on. So what I did is I took some narrow Scotch tape, because in the olden days, I think they just had the narrow kind, okay? And you put a piece on, tear off a piece and put it on some wax paper. Now first I tried the burnt sienna alcohol ink that I had, and that's just way too dark. When I peel the tape out, the tape, aged tape, is not, it's not that dark. I don't like that, so that's not going to work. So those two are fails. And then I did this one with the vintage photo spray. So I think spray stain. I think I'm going to get some of the vintage photo ink. But for now, this seems to work. So what I did is, like this tape that I put here, I just kind of spritzed the tape on the wax paper. Let it sit there for a second. Took a wipe, kind of dabbed at it to kind of make it kind of yellowy looking. Okay. So like this one, got a little bit more on the edges, kind of like that. Let's see here. So you peel it up, and so it just makes your tape. So I'm just here on the edge. Doesn't really show up on that paper, but it's a look you want, especially like if you have some old photos or something that you want to make it look like you fixed it. See there? So I like how that looks. So that vintage photo is the color you want if you're going to age tape to make it look like you put it on there and it's turned yellow. That one's not sticking really well, so I probably got too much ink on it or something. I'm going to press it down better. That makes it look like it's been repaired a long time ago. So that's a lot of fun. So there is, and I like the way the ink showed up on the wax paper. So I may use some of that in a little bit. Okay, so that's how to age some Scotch tape that you might want through here. So we have those layers on. Next, I think I'm going to use our pretty paper. Of course, we're going to have to age this a little bit. I don't know if I want this one or this one. I really love them both, because I'll use them both in the book. So let's see. I think I'm going to go with that one for now. And I want this side. Now, you don't have to cut with your trimmer unless you just want to. And we're going to, for now, I'm going to use more of the roses later. So I'm going to take my pencil, and I think I want it from, give me a little extra, about right here to about right in here. So I'm just going to start tearing. Don't panic. You get 3 of these sheets. And you'll notice if you tear up, you don't have the white core. If you tear down, you do have the white core. So it depends on what the look you want. This core here. So if I don't want that, if I want to ink it, that's fine. So if you tear down, the white's going to be on the other side. Okay, so that's kind of going there. I want to tear these down here at the top. I don't want as much white, I don't think. Okay, you can save your little bits of papers. This side's not going to show, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to tear this down a little more in, a little more gap. So I've got just this pink plaid look with the vintage writing. And I am going to glue that. Of course, some of my tape still shows. See the piece there? And that actually popped up there. And I'm going to put it on my pink right there. Just like it. Okay, so if you want to ink some, just dab. A little much right there, but that's okay. Just kind of dab the edges. Don't have to worry about this left side because that's going to be covered. So I'm just going to fit this in here and glue it down. Put a good amount of glue on the edges here, or enough to keep it all in place. And I know I don't have any of the pretty roses showing right now, but that's okay because they will. So we've got that like that. And I think, let's see here. So the next thing we're going to do is set this aside. Grab my wax paper again. That's what I use for a worksheet on my surface. So what I'm going to do here, I want some of this, but I want to age it. So I'm going to tear around the title. And I want it to say Ludwig van Beethoven, most of that. Let's get that right there, okay? And tear this. And this is the copy, so everything's good with that. It's okay. Just a piece of it. So a little more, a little shorter. And then we're going to age it. This here. We're just going to have a piece of that in here with this. Okay. So now, I am going to spritz it a little bit with some water. Not a whole lot, but just to go ahead and press it down. So you could use a paper towel to kind of block some of that up if you wanted to. And there's no right or wrong way. You can experiment. I've got the original. I can go make another copy if I mess up. It's just that I wanted to soften it some and kind of get some little bit of wrinkle in it, like that. But this is something that you could tea dye if you wanted to. I am just going to take some of my ink, and I don't care if it gets a little dark in some spaces. Some of my archival ink. Kind of let's wrinkle it up a little more so we can get some ink on the edges here, the crinkly bits. Think you have too much on your dauber, just, rub it off. Kind of make it yellow, and I keep rubbing a lot of it on there to kind of yellow the paper, kind of stain it up. I'm going to fold it, get some creases in there like it's been folded up in a book. There, like that. Let's do another piece of tape. I do like the tape. Can't hardly see the tape there. So I'm going to tear it a little here. And I'm going to take my tape that I just colored, and I'm going to tape it. We repaired that little bit of, so we have some tape there. It's hard to see right in there. I got that ink there that's a little dark. I don't like it, so I'm going to tear that off. Just like that. Okay, then another trick is to take a metal paper clip. So let me grab one of those. Okay, so I decided to just use a pen. So you open up a pen, and where you think a hole might have worn, you just poke a hole in it. Now that's kind of crazy, but poke a hole, kind of get it poked in there, and take your fingernail and kind of make a hole in there. Kind of peel your fingernail. See how you kind of wears it up. A hole right there. And I did a small one. I need to make it a little bigger. Somewhere in here. There it is. So you know how paper, as it gets old, it can have little tears, little holes in it. That has that. Okay. I'm going to take this. And I'm going to tear it in half because I want both pieces to show. I'm going to put this one here. Glue. Probably put another hole in that one that I just tore in half. Let the wrinkles show. And then this one I'm going to put down here. So let's tear a hole in it. Like that. Okay. Okay, there's that. Now, I know we've kind of got the pretty paper hidden some, but we're going to put more of those roses there on the top in a bit. Okay. So I'm going to take my lace now. This particular lace. I think I want it like that. So I'm going to trim this on the bottom just a little bit. So it can go right here and right up in here. Now this is where I'm going to take the fabric tack or Fabrifix is what I have. And I'm going to glue this on right in here. One time in designing something, I had someone's comment was, why layer everything when you cover everything up? Well, you cover a lot of it up so that what's peeking out is what it is you want to see. So it just adds dimension. I know we've covered up all this pretty pink gingham and the lettering, but there'll be more of it added in, and what you see coming out with all the other layers is what's going to make this what you really, really love. So I'm going to put my glue here. Try to, if it comes out. This is why I have issues with this type of glue. It's like, oh, really hard to get in and out. See, there's nothing in that nozzle. So let me press on it. There we go. So I'm going to put my lace right in here. So I also want to add this little bit of tatting on this from this vintage handkerchief. And I'm going to cut it. And I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, no. But you've got to do that in junk journaling. You've got to cut things. So I'm just going to cut this edge off of the handkerchief. There'll still be plenty of it left for me to use somewhere else. That's what I bought it for. I really love how that looks. So I'm going to lay this on my wax paper. Put a good amount of this fabric glue here on this piece. So that it sticks down good. And then I'll put some on the lace too. Hopefully I get enough on there to hold it, especially the edges here. Don't want it flipping back on me. I want to lay it down over the other edge of the other lace, so some of that's gonna, hopefully that's enough. Okay, so let's pick this up. And I'm going to position it. I don't want to cover up all my other lace. I'm going to lay this like that. It's just like a double lace on lace. I'm going to let that curve around. But I like how that's looking. Okay, so see, it's double lace. You can't really see a lot of that, but it gives it a lot of dimension in there. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll add probably the quilting fabric next. And that's going to go like there to make our cover piece. Okay, so for here on the front, I want the rose. So first I'm going to tear it out, the bigger piece. That watermark there, that's really pretty. Okay, so we have, let me turn my light back on. I went to lunch and forgot to turn the light back on. Okay, so while I went to lunch, and also while I had the heater on running, I tore out from the other leftovers of this piece of paper, this rose piece like this. And then I tore out a page out of my German book that I found at a antique shop. So I'm going to probably layer it like that. Then I wanted something kind of sheer between it. And believe it or not, I don't have any vellum here. I couldn't find any. So I tore some of the wax paper and really crinkling it up. And I'm going to take, I'm going to spray some of this stain vintage photo on it. And I'm going to wipe that off because it just beads up. I want to give it some color here, okay? And you can also just ink. I did do this with my dauber and ink it some. It's more of it around the edges than actually on the center. Okay, so just vintage things up a little bit. Then I'm going to, because I tore this out, I'm going to take my dauber and ink and go around the edges. Just kind of dab, dab, dab the edges. Maybe in some spots a little bit more than others. So I'll kind of make it look really old. Take my pen and poke a hole. Kind of pull it. Just kind of get a little tear in there. A little bit of hole. Ink it up. Like that. Okay. Then the sheet from the book, it's real fragile. It's going to kind of tear, and that's okay. But I want some of this ink on there just to kind of, don't have to worry about that side because that's not going to be showing, but in the center, not either. Okay. So that's going to go kind of there on top of the music. I want to tear a little more of this off so I can scoot that over some. I want Beethoven to be showing. Let me see here. Yeah. Okay, so let's put this down. Let's use the art glitter glue. Now, if you have multi-matte medium, you can use that too on your papers. Just use whatever you have as far as sticking things down. So I'm going to slide this underneath this lace here. Like I said, whoops, I want Beethoven to show. I have this piece of wax paper. Get a little smaller. So you can see I'm not actually measuring or anything, just tearing it down to fit. So I saw a comment somewhere, I don't know if it was on Facebook or YouTube, where someone commented that they just could not, as far as junk journals go, they could not wrap their head around the word junk. In other words, crafting with junk. And so I'm like, well, I think it just means that it's stuff that might be thrown away, or you just add the two together. I mean, if you wanted to make this book and make it as clean and pristine as you can, that's fine. But for a true junk journal type, I'm going to, vintage it up. I just want that look of old. And then I think I've mentioned it before, the purpose of a junk journal, can't even say it, is just to enjoy the process. And then also use it for quotes or your thoughts. You can write in it, special notes, poems, whatever you want to put in it. Just make it personally yours or make it for a gift for someone who likes to do that. So I like that. I like how that tear shows up like that. That's really pretty with that paper that way. Okay, so we've got that. We've got that little bit of wax paper behind there to kind of give it another layer. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over, and we're going to do something to the back before we actually cover the spine. So I took the rest of this paper and I'm going to, I let it, you know, you can kind of tatter the edges if you want to. Grab your small scissors, and there's distress tools for that, or you can just, you know, do it with your scissors or your fingers, kind of pinch and tear at the same time. You know, it's okay if it's a little bit bigger torn there. Just really vintage it up, kind of rough it up, get a little torn, little nicks in it, little slashes. That's that way, and then I'm going to, of course, ink it. And if you notice my ink box here, I have a separate video showing you how I made that with my husband's help. He made this to hold my round daubers, and this holds my ink box. So I have two of them. One to hold this archive ink, like this one that I got from Country Craft Creations, and then also one to hold. They're the same size, so I'll just show you just real quick. Here's the other one. Also has a holder for this. This comes out. So I do show you how to make that for those of you curious about that. So this is going to attach to this outer edge. And I also need to ink this because this is going to overlap something here. So I want to make sure that we're getting all that inked up and ready. Okay, so that's going to go there. And then I took some of the leftover tea dye paper, and I remember our fabric spine is going to wrap over, so this doesn't have to go all the way. So I like that, how that looks. So I'm going to put it about 3/4 of an inch from the edge, and I'm just going to go ahead and glue this on. This was left over from what I tore down for the front side. And I'm not going to put a lot of lace and stuff on the back because I do want this to be able to lay flat, and that's why I'm not putting a lot of dimension on the front, so that you can actually, whoops, 3/4 of an inch over. We can journal. That works. Okay, put that on there. This is not going to show. Now, sometimes I do like to go ahead and ink like the edges here, even of the file folder, in case something shows. So I'm going to do that here on this edge. And I will probably do that on the inside as well. We want this edge here to be inked up right in there. Put some glue here, attaching it down. Now this will go over that right here, kind of extending it a little bit. Let me ink this inside part here. I'm just going to extend just a little bit. Put glue all over this piece. Just going to let it extend just a tiny bit over the edge. Oh, that's a little too much. So just a tiny little bit there. I'm going to let it catter up a little bit. And right here, kind of cut it or tore it a little short. That there. Now I had little bits of this from the page that I tore. So I have a little gap here showing. And I'm just going to put some of this on there. And this is where the multi-matte medium would come in handy. I think art glitter glue works great too if you get enough coverage on it to just kind of push that down. Even if the glue oozes out, you can just rub it over it like that. Another piece here. I may want to put like up in here. Now, even though I will show you that possibly I am done with mine, I may add more to it as I go. I mean, it may take a while before it to be completely finished. So I'm going to add in a little more of this paper here. Where I kind of tore it short and just kind of overlap it. Use a lot of glue on this. Here. And then I'm going to ink it some. Let's bring it down to cover what I want to cover. And I'm going to look at my washi tape here that I have. I have this. This is pretty. I think I'll use that on the bottom. So look at your washi tapes. Now I am going to put glue right along the edge where that's going to go down, because I don't want it to come loose. Washi tape sometimes will come loose. This has a design to it, and tear it off there on the end. Just kind of stick it on there. So I'm going to put some of this on the front too. Now that I want some more of my aged Scotch tape. So where did I put my tape? There it is. Let's do a little more of that. I just start getting stuff everywhere as I'm working. So I need to every now and then stop and clean. So peel up your little aged tape, and I think I'm going to just kind of like stick it here, holding this words down. I think I'll do another one. I really like how that looks. I hope that you'll give that a try. It's a fun thing to do to make things look older. So I'm going to put up here on this one, just like that. Back side. So I may get me some multi-matte medium and cover this up at some point here. I have plenty of ink on it. So then I'm going to turn this over and decide. And I'm going to ink this right in here. You might be able to see it when the fabric goes on. I just want to make sure. Okay, turn this back over, and that washi tape that's here. Let me see if I want to put a piece of it somewhere. Just a short little piece, like right up in there. Like right here. Okay, so now I think we're ready for the fabric spine. Then we'll tie it up, and we'll probably do the inside here tomorrow on the next video. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it tomorrow. We'll see. Okay. You don't think that's too black, do you? I don't think so. I think it works. Okay, so here's my fabric. What I did right before I went to lunch is I took this in the laundry room, and I used a little bit of bleach. I thought it was too bright, too perfect. And I don't know if you can tell. See how this one is the darker here? So the bleach made this part lighter. It made some of this a little lighter, this blue lighter, and this stripe, the green stripe, made it more gray. There's still got the green in there. This is lighter. Then I dried it with my heat gun. I washed it out and dried it. And then I'm going along, and I'm taking my dauber here, and I'm just adding here and there some vintage color to kind of make it not so perfect. Okay, just kind of rub it on there really well. Get that vintagey look to it. Okay, now then I want, let's see, I want more of this roses showing. So I'm going to take my scissors, because this is really probably too wide, and I'm going to cut it right here. Let's see if I can tear it. Right along where I stitched it. Here. Because I do want the little ravellies. Like this. Okay. Like a torn piece of a quilt. Okay. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my ink, and where the raggedy part is. And I'm okay if it tore some of the stitching out that I did. Okay. And let's see. Along there, stream. Now let's lay it on here. So this is going to glue right there. Wrap around. And it's going to come to the back. So that's what's going to be too long. So let me see here where I want it. So you can always use this again. So I'm going to cut it right here. My big scissors. And that's where I'm going to tear it. So I'll save this other piece for another project, or inside I can make a pocket with it. That would be great. So now we pull out our strings we don't want. Oh, and my heater came on, so I'm going to pause unless it's not too loud. Okay, so while my heater was running, I added a little bit more letter book paper right there, another scrap that I had. And then I made a couple of the tapes, but one here on the washi to kind of tone that down a little bit, and then one back here. And I did use some art glitter glue and rub a thin layer over these pieces here where the areas are overlapping, and the paper, the book papers, and on this one, so that it won't snag and tear as badly here. So I have that more smooth there. So now I have ready for this. So you see it's all aged. If you didn't know it, you wouldn't know that this was a brand new piece of fabric. Okay. So this is about, what, a 3-inch, and we're going to use the fabric glue. And I'm going to go ahead and squeeze out a good amount that I can. These things drive me crazy. There we go. Get this glue going. This is why I like art glitter glue, but these dry really fast. So here on this video, I want it to go ahead and get attached so that we can get this on for part 3. And I'm thinking I'm going to wait on the inside covers because I'll probably put some pockets on it to do that in part 4. I'm thinking. Glue all down this edge because we don't want this popping up. Hopefully that's enough. So here, this rose piece here is going to go right along this, along the lace, right there, just like that. So I can come back and add more glue if I need to. I'm going to wrap it around and bring it around to the back and press that down and get that glued on. Okay, so anywhere you see maybe you need some more glue, just go ahead and get that all on there. Make sure it's glued down good. And then once it's dry, we'll go ahead and tie that up. So that looks pretty good on this side. Right here, I might need some. Okay, so that's for now what my cover of my junk journal looks like. Like if you want to put a title or something here, but I really like how that looks. So then I'm going to take, this natural looking twine, roll me off a piece because I like the color of it. And I'm going to tie a knot in each end. Probably should have seen how far around it wraps. Let's do that on this one. And we'll just wrap it around it. It's not going to be attached to it. Yep. Just like that. And we're going to tie it into a bow right about there. So it's kind of double wrapped. So I am going to shorten this some. Right here. Untie double knot. So we can really see where the knots are. Cut that short. And this one I'll retie it. So like if you wanted to put some charms on it or something, you could. But now when you untie it to use your journal, it's going to be loose. It's not going to be attached. So it's just a closure piece like that. So before I wrap this up for today, I wanted to add a few more details to the front cover. And I remembered that I had these flowers and I pulled out 3 vintage buttons. So first, and then I also wanted to try this stamp very lightly. So I have the vintage photo, and I'm just going to pick up some ink here on the corner. And very lightly stamp right here on the roses. Just kind of give a little detail here of some leaves and things. So maybe just a little bit up here on the music, just like that. Okay, so that's what I've done for that. I'll wipe my stamp off. And then I'm going to take fabric glue, and I want to glue this flowers down into the lace. So I'm putting it on the back of the leaf. Get it started here. And on the back of the flowers, right there. Good amount, some right in here. These are those flat faux flowers that are silk flowers that I picked up. So I'm just going to put some glue here. And then I want to stick it down in through the lace. I want the stem to go down into the lace a little bit on the holes, so that the kind of brings it down almost just above that tape. So I'm going to let them dry like that. And then I want a button right here between where the string goes, right on top of that flower. So put a good amount of glue right there. Now these are vintage buttons I had in my stash, and they already had the string, so it's a real vintage string. I've got a kind of a beige creamy colored one, and then I have more of a white one here. Just so that would dress it up with that lace. Whoops. Of course, I got to get it to stick. And then I have a big one, a big black one with some green. So I thought that brought in all that. So put the glue on the back of the button here with that thread already in there. We're just going to put it right there on top of the lace and let all that dry. So that is the cover of my junk journal. I love that it has this with Beethoven down here. So I'm going to say this the best that I can. I'm not German, maybe a little bit. My husband's German, but he doesn't speak it. I'm going to say it the way I've heard it say, Für Elise. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. So I'm going to play a royalty-free version of it while I close out today's tutorial. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have been able to work on yours as well, your junk journal cover. Join me hopefully tomorrow. We will see for part 4. If not tomorrow, then probably the weekend, where we'll work on the inside of the cover and maybe the first page or two. So again, thanks so much for following along. So that you'll know when I have the next video ready, just click on subscribe if you haven't already, and then the bell for notification. And remember to check out countrycraftcreations.com for your adhesives, like the art glitter glue. For this beautiful paper collection, you'll be seeing a lot more of that. In the inside of the journal, this is love letters exclusive to Country Craft Creations. It is the 12 by 12 size, so this, you see it here and here in the image. Also look for the inks, like the archival ink in the coffee color. So and maybe other elements that you might think you might want on there. And also just start looking through your stash to see what you might like to add to yours. So I really love how it turned out with the buttons and the flowers. It just kind of dressed it up just a little bit more. And of course that's the back side over there. So again, thank you so much, and check back and join me for part 4. Thanks. Bye-bye.